Picture this. You are sitting in your car on a Wednesday morning, and the check engine light blinks on. Your stomach drops. Not because you do not know what that light means, you know exactly what it means. It means somewhere between $200 and $400 to diagnose and fix. The problem is, you have $63 in your checking account, and payday is not until Friday. So you do what millions of people do every single week in this situation. You turn up the music, you drive to work, you tell yourself you will deal with it next month. 2 months later, that $200 sensor problem has eaten through your catalytic converter. The tow truck costs $180. The repair bill is now $1,900. You missed a shift because the car died on the highway, so subtract another $150 in lost wages. That original inability to spend $200 has now cost you over $2,200. You did not make a bad decision. You made the only decision available to you at the time. And that is the part that will keep you up at night, because you already knew this would happen. You knew it in your gut the second that light came on. You just could not afford to know it. My name is Kay, and I spend an uncomfortable amount of time studying the invisible math that keeps people financially stuck. Not the inspirational stuff. Not the just stop buying lattes advice that people with trust funds love to share on social media. The actual mechanical equations running underneath everyday life that charge you more money specifically because you do not have money. My grandmother in Yokohama had a phrase for this. She called it binbo himanashi. It translates loosely to, the poor have no leisure. But the meaning runs deeper than that. It means when you are broke, you are so consumed with putting out fires that you never have the time or energy to build anything fireproof. You are always reacting, never positioning. And every single reaction costs you a premium. Today we are going to break down why being broke is statistically the most expensive financial position you can occupy. Not philosophically, mathematically, with receipts. Let us start with what I think is the cleanest illustration of this trap that has ever been written. It comes from a fictional character in a novel, and it explains wealth inequality better than most economics textbooks. A character named Sam Vines describes what he calls the Boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness. It goes like this. A wealthy man buys a pair of $50 leather boots. They are well constructed, properly stitched, solid material. Those boots last 10 years. A broke man cannot afford $50. He has 10, so he buys the cheap boots. Thin soles, cardboard lining, glued together. Those boots fall apart after one season. Next year he buys another $10 pair, and the year after that. Over the same 10-year window, the broke man has spent $100 on boots. Double what the wealthy man spent, and he still has wet feet. The wealthy man is dry, comfortable, and $50 richer. This is not a metaphor. This is the actual math of being poor. You pay a premium for lacking capital. And that premium shows up in places so ordinary that you stop noticing them. Let me give you an example that sounds ridiculous but is completely real. Toilet paper. If you have $50 to spare, you drive to a warehouse store and buy the mega pack. Your cost per roll comes out to about 50 cents. You are set for months. But if you are living paycheck to paycheck, you cannot afford to invest $50 in a toilet paper portfolio. You have $4, so you walk to the corner store and buy the 4-pack at $1.50 per roll. You just paid 3 times more for the exact same product. Not because you are bad at math, because you did not have the capital to access the better price. This is what economists call the poverty premium. And it does not stop at toilet paper. It applies to laundry detergent, cooking oil, diapers, cleaning supplies, and almost every non-perishable item in your household. Run the numbers on diapers alone and it gets ugly fast. A family going through about 70 diapers a week buying in bulk at a warehouse store might pay around 22 cents per diaper. The same family buying the small convenience store pack is paying closer to 45 cents each. Over a year, that gap is roughly $840, just on diapers. For a family that is already broke, the product does not change. The baby does not care which store the diaper came from. The only variable is how much cash you had in your pocket when you walked through the door. When my father first moved to the States from Japan, he was shocked by this. In Japan, there is a cultural expectation of price consistency. The idea that the same product costs dramatically different amounts depending on how much money you already have felt like a broken system to him. He was right. It is a broken system. And if you are on the wrong side of it, your effective inflation rate is technically higher than a wealthy person's inflation rate, because you are permanently locked out of economies of scale. But the poverty premium on groceries is the gentle version. Where this gets significantly darker is the banking system. And I want you to pay close attention here because this one makes my blood pressure spike every time I look at the numbers. If you have $10,000 sitting in your checking account, your bank treats you like royalty. No monthly maintenance fees, free checks, maybe a waiver on the ATM fees, maybe even a negligible amount of interest, although let us not pretend that is generous. Now flip the scenario. You have $22 in your account. A subscription you forgot to cancel hits for $27. You are now negative $5. Does your bank send you a friendly notification and cover the difference as a courtesy? No. They charge you a $35 overdraft fee. Think about what just happened mathematically. You effectively borrowed $5 for one business day and were charged $35 for the privilege. If you annualize that interest rate, it comes out to over 250,000%. If your neighbor ran that deal out of his garage, he would be arrested for loan sharking. When a bank does it, they call it account services. According to the Consumer Federation of America, consumers paid approximately $12.1 billion in overdraft and insufficient funds fees in 2024. JP Morgan Chase alone collected over $1 billion. Wells Fargo was right behind them at another billion. And who is paying these fees? Not the people with $10,000 balances. According to a 2025 Federal Reserve survey, 12% of all Americans paid an overdraft fee that year, but 23% of people earning under $25,000 got hit. The rich get paid interest, the poor pay interest. It is a wealth transfer from the bottom to the top, disguised as service fees, and it runs on autopilot. And it does not stop at overdrafts. Look at check cashing fees. If you do not have a bank account, and roughly 6% of American households are unbanked, you have to pay a fee just to access your own paycheck. Check cashing stores charge anywhere from 1 to 3% of the check amount. So if your paycheck is $1,000, you are paying $10 to $30 for the privilege of holding your own money. Over a year with bi-weekly paychecks, that is $260 to $780 gone. For literally nothing. A wealthy person deposits their paycheck through direct deposit at zero cost and earns interest on it while it sits in their account. The broke person pays to access their earnings and earns nothing. Same work, same hours, different financial physics. Now I can hear Smart Sam in the back saying, well, just do not spend money you do not have. And theoretically, Sam, you are correct. But psychology does not care about your theories. There is a concept in behavioral economics called the scarcity mindset, and the research on it is disturbing. Studies from Princeton have shown that when a person is legitimately worried about how they are going to pay rent next week, their functional cognitive capacity drops by roughly 13 IQ points. That is the equivalent of losing an entire night of sleep. Your brain becomes so consumed with immediate survival calculations that it physically loses bandwidth for long-term strategic thinking. This is why broke people sometimes make decisions that look irrational to outsiders. They take the payday loan at 400% interest. They buy the lottery ticket. They eat fast food every night instead of batch cooking on Sunday. It is not because they are unintelligent. It is because their cognitive bandwidth is maxed out running survival math and there is nothing left over for optimization math. A researcher at Harvard described it as trying to run a complex software program while your computer's processor is already at 98% capacity handling background tasks. The program will crash, not because the software is flawed, but because there are no resources available to run it. That is your brain on financial scarcity. The operating system is fine, the hardware is fine, the load is the problem. The boots theory is not just about money, it is about mental energy. The wealthy man does not just save $50 on boots. He saves the mental bandwidth of not worrying about wet feet for a decade. He can redeploy that brain power toward investing, learning a new skill, building a side income. The broke person is stuck running a daily calculation just to keep the lights on. My grandmother's phrase captures this perfectly. Binbo himanashi. The poor have no leisure. Not because they are lazy, because the math of survival consumes every available resource, including the mental resources you would need to escape the cycle. Let me scale this up from boots to something that actually bankrupts people: cars. In America, unless you live in roughly 3 cities with functional public transit, you need a vehicle to earn a living. Smart Sam has decent credit and some savings. He buys a 3-year-old Toyota Camry for $20,000. He qualifies for a 5% interest rate over 5 years. His monthly payment is about $377, and over the life of the loan he pays roughly $22,600 total. That car runs for another 7 years with basic maintenance. His cost of ownership is low, predictable, and spread across a reliable asset. Now look at broke Brian. He needs a car to get to the job to make the money to survive. He goes to one of those buy here, pay here dealerships. The ones with the giant inflatable gorillas out front and phrases like, "No credit, no problem," painted on the windows. They sell him a high-mileage vehicle that is worth maybe $4,000 on a good day, but they price it at $8,000. Because Brian's credit score is in the low 500s, the interest rate is 24%. Over 5 years, Brian pays approximately $13,800 for a car that was worth $4,000. And here is the part that makes this a genuine trap. That car will almost certainly break down before the loan is paid off. So Brian is now making payments on a dead vehicle while trying to figure out how to finance a new one. He is not just paying for the car, he is paying a risk premium, because the financial system has categorized him as risky. And the only way to stop being categorized as risky is to have money, which he cannot save because he is paying the risk premium. It is a loop designed to spin in one direction. I did the math on this side by side because I think seeing it raw makes the point better than any metaphor. Smart Sam pays $22,600 total for a $20,000 car at 5% interest over 5 years. Interest cost about $2,600. Broke Brian pays $13,800 total for a $4,000 car at 24%. Interest cost over $5,800. Brian paid more than double in interest on a car, worth 1/5 as much, and Brian's car will fail first. When it does, he starts the cycle over with an even worse credit score, because the repo hit his record. Meanwhile, Sam is still driving his Camry to work every morning, paid off, building credit, building savings, widening the gap without lifting an extra finger. And we have not even gotten to housing, which is where this entire equation becomes almost comically unfair. When you rent, you are essentially paying 100% interest on shelter. Every single dollar goes to your landlord's mortgage, property taxes, maintenance budget, and profit margin. You build zero equity. You own nothing at the end. But to buy a house, you need a down payment. $10,000, $20,000, sometimes more depending on the market. If you are already spending 50% of your income on rent because housing costs have outpaced wage growth for decades, you physically cannot save that down payment. You are trapped paying $2,000 a month in rent for an apartment that would cost you $1,200 a month if you owned it with a mortgage. The wealthy person buys the house, reduces their monthly housing cost, and gains an asset that appreciates in value over time. The broke person pays $800 more per month for the privilege of owning nothing. Over 10 years, that gap alone is $96,000. And the person paying more is the one who can afford it less. But it actually gets worse because while the renter is bleeding cash, the homeowner's asset is appreciating. If that house grows in value at even 3% per year, the homeowner has gained equity on top of saving on monthly costs. The renter gained absolutely nothing except a stack of receipts, proving they paid someone else's mortgage for a decade. It is expensive to be poor because you are renting your entire existence. You are renting your shelter. You are renting your money through credit card interest. You are renting your stability through month-to-month payments on everything. Even your phone plan costs more if your credit score is low, because the carrier charges a higher deposit or denies you the installment plan entirely, forcing you to buy the phone outright or use a prepaid service with worse rates per gigabyte. This is where we need to talk about the hidden tax that nobody puts on a spreadsheet, the time tax. And this connects directly to what my grandmother meant by bimbo himanashi. Consider laundry. If you own a washer and dryer, doing laundry costs you 5 minutes of active effort. You throw the clothes in, you walk away, you come back when the buzzer goes off. If you do not own those appliances, you haul everything to a laundromat. That costs you $5 in quarters and approximately 2 hours of your life. Travel there, wait, travel back. Those 2 hours are not free. If you value your time at even minimum wage, the real cost of that laundry trip is over $30. And those are 2 hours you cannot spend working overtime, studying for a certification, resting so you perform better at your job tomorrow, or being present with your family. Or think about food access. If you live in a low-income neighborhood, the nearest full-service grocery store might be a 40-minute bus ride away, so you shop at the convenience store with inflated prices. To access the fair prices, you need transportation time, bus fare, and the physical energy to carry groceries home on public transit. The friction of daily life is measurably higher when you do not have money. Everything takes longer. Everything costs more in time. And time, as any investor will tell you, is the most valuable compounding asset that exists. When poverty steals your time, it is stealing your future earning potential. It is stealing the hours you could spend building skills, building relationships, building a business. And unlike money, you cannot earn time back. It is gone permanently. And this is not just theoretical. Think about healthcare. If you have good insurance through your employer, you go to your primary care doctor for a routine checkup. It takes an hour including travel. The copay is $25. Problem identified early, treated cheaply, you move on with your life. If you do not have good insurance, or if your deductible is so high that going to the doctor feels like a luxury, you avoid the checkup. The small problem grows. By the time it becomes painful enough that you cannot ignore it, you end up in the emergency room. The ER visit costs you 6 to 8 hours of waiting. The bill is anywhere from $800 to $3,000. You miss a full day of work. And the treatment is reactive instead of preventive, so it costs more and solves less. The $25 checkup you could not afford just became a $2,000 emergency you definitely cannot afford. This is the Boots theory applied to your body. The wealthy person maintains their health cheaply through prevention. The broke person pays a catastrophic premium for the same outcome, delivered worse and later. Now I want to pause here because I realize I have spent the last several minutes essentially proving that the system is rigged, and you might be wondering if this is just a really well-researched pity party. It is not. Understanding the math is the only way to break the equation. And this is where I think my Japanese perspective actually helps. Because the standard American financial advice completely misses the point for people trapped in this cycle. Every financial guru tells you to invest in the stock market, get your 8% average annual return, let compound interest work its magic. And that is correct advice, eventually. But if you are currently broke, the best investment you can make is not the S&P 500. It is escaping the Boots theory penalties. If you have credit card debt at 20% interest, paying that off is a guaranteed 20% return on your money. No stock picker on earth can promise you that. No index fund offers it. If you buy a reliable $40 toaster instead of replacing the $12 one every 8 months, that is a return on investment. If you fix the small plumbing leak before it destroys your subfloor, that is a return on investment. The first step out of this trap is not trying to get rich. It is trying to stop the bleeding. If you are watching this and recognizing these patterns in your own life, I built something that might help you see the full picture. There is a link in the description below where you can take a short quiz that analyzes your specific situation, your income, your expenses, your particular version of this trap, and puts together a breakdown tailored to where you actually are, not where some generic financial advice assumes you should be. It takes a few minutes, and it might show you leaks you did not realize were there. This brings us to the single most important concept in this entire video: the buffer. The emergency fund. That first $1,000. I know emergency fund advice sounds boring. I know every personal finance channel on the internet has told you to save 3 to 6 months of expenses, and you have mentally checked out because that feels like telling a drowning person to swim to France. But that first $1,000 is not just savings. It is a weapon. It is the tool that destroys the poverty premium. According to a 2026 U.S. News survey, 43% of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency expense from savings. A Bankrate survey from the same year found that only 30% of Americans could pay that expense from savings without going into debt. That means the majority of the country is one flat tire, one urgent care visit, one broken water heater, away from a financial spiral. But when you have that $1,000 buffer, the math changes overnight. A flat tire becomes an annoyance, not a crisis that forces you into a 300% interest payday loan. That $1,000 lets you increase your insurance deductible from $250 to $1,000, which can lower your monthly premium by $30 to $50. Did you catch that? Having money saved actually lowers your monthly bills. That buffer lets you buy the bulk toilet paper. It lets you fix the small car problem before it becomes the big car problem. It lets you say no to the predatory loan. That first chunk of liquidity is the hardest money you will ever save, but dollar for dollar, it is the most impactful money you will ever have. It is the difference between playing defense and playing offense. Every dollar in that buffer is working triple duty. It is preventing future penalties, reducing current costs, and freeing up cognitive bandwidth so you can actually think about strategy instead of survival. But here is where the psychological trap gets people. When you have been broke for a long time and you finally get a little bit of breathing room, the temptation is overwhelming to spend it on something that makes you feel normal for 5 minutes. A nice dinner out, new shoes, a weekend where you do not have to count every dollar. I understand that temptation on a molecular level. I have felt it. Everyone who has ever been broke has felt it. But if you take that breathing room money and use it to buy the quality work boots, to fix the car, to pay the dentist for the cavity before it becomes a root canal, you are not just spending money. You are buying your way out of the penalty box. You are paying off the poor tax so that you never have to pay it again. In Japan, we have a cultural understanding that enduring short-term discomfort for long-term positioning is not deprivation. It is strategy. It is the difference between choosing to be uncomfortable now and being forced to be uncomfortable forever. You have to start looking at every purchase through a different lens. Not can I afford the monthly payment, but what is the total cost of ownership? The predatory car dealership wants you focused on the monthly number because that hides the true price. The rent-to-own furniture store wants you focused on $12 a week because that obscures the fact that you are paying triple retail for a couch. When you shift your thinking to lifetime cost, you start seeing these traps everywhere. And once you see them, you cannot unsee them. I remember my uncle in Osaka explaining this to me when I was maybe 14 years old. He said that the most expensive decisions always look like the cheapest ones at first. That $30 monthly subscription looks cheap until you realize you have paid $360 a year for something you use twice a month. That zero-down car lot looks cheap until you see the total payback amount on the contract. The corner store bread looks cheap until you calculate the annual cost versus the warehouse store price. The system is designed to make the expensive choice look affordable and the affordable choice look expensive. Once you understand this, you become a terrible customer for predatory businesses, which means you become an excellent financial strategist for your own life. So what does the actual escape plan look like? It is not glamorous. It is not a crypto play or a side hustle that makes you rich in 90 days. It is this. Audit your life for what I call vampire costs. Expenses that exist specifically because you do not have money. Are you paying private mortgage insurance because your down payment was under 20%? That is a vampire cost. Are you paying 24% on a car loan because your credit score was wrecked by a medical bill from 3 years ago? Vampire cost. Are you buying single rolls of paper towels at $3 each? Vampire cost. Identify the biggest bleeder. Then temporarily cut everything that is not keeping you alive and redirect every available dollar toward plugging that specific leak. If you need $500 to fix your car so it stops burning oil and costing you $30 a week in extra fuel, picking up a weekend of delivery driving is not just earning extra income. It is a strategic strike against a recurring future expense. You are not earning $500. You are saving potentially $1,500 over the next year in avoided oil burning and eventual engine failure. That is a 300% return on your weekend. And once you start thinking this way, you notice something interesting. The vampire costs are not random. They cluster. They feed each other. Bad credit leads to high insurance premiums, which leads to less money available, which leads to deferred maintenance, which leads to emergency repairs, which leads to more debt, which leads to worse credit. It is one interconnected system of penalties. But that also means that fixing one leak often reduces the pressure on all the others. Paying off the credit card improves your credit score, which lowers your auto insurance rate, which frees up $50 a month, which lets you build the emergency fund faster, which lets you buy in bulk, which saves another $100 a year. The penalties compound negatively, but the fixes compound positively. Each small win creates space for the next one. And that is the part that the "just stop being poor" crowd never acknowledges. The hardest dollar to save is the first one. The most impactful dollar to save is also the first one. And every dollar after that gets slightly easier, because the penalty system loosens its grip one notch at a time. Here is the part of this journey that rarely gets discussed. The gap between $0 and $10,000 requires 10 times more effort than the gap between $10,000 and $100,000. The wind is blowing directly in your face at the start. Every system, every fee structure, every pricing model is designed to keep you in the penalty zone.